Hey, welcome back. I'm not going to spend too much time on the opening, but just that I did the workshop today on hosting Google Chats, which I intend to do with office hours, and some of the teachers are going to be doing too. Depends on if they need to or not. It's not teaching, it's just, I'll post down that I'll be like, I'll pick times. I haven't done it yet for this week. I'll probably start it next week, but it'd be like Wednesday at noon, um, and you have to be logged into your Google account to get in. And you can come in and ask questions, go through, see how things are going, things like that. And in general, too, people are still having issues with this stuff. I mean, these videos, the best thing to do is to open it on a separate browser thing, kind of. Watch it on YouTube, and the questions, you can read them in advance, and you can answer them as you go along. I put them in order. I'm not trying to trick you. I just want to teach you this stuff again because I don't want you to be behind. All right, let's get into it because we have a little bit to do today. Let's start here just because it's kind of fun.
Whew, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." And he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will. But today I'm still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. How I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill. He signed your bill. Now you're a law. Oh, yeah.
All right, good. So, yeah, that's the just a bill thing. And back to this. And again, this little flowchart thing, as far as we got yesterday, well, in the last assignment on this, legislative power part 3, I think it was, the idea, we talked about the idea that anyone can come up with a free petition. Anyone can come up with it, but most of them come from the executive branch. And then it's assigned by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and it goes to committee, and the committee gets it to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee does the research, and that's the hard work. And that's what I was trying to really emphasize. And then the hearings. We started into the hearings, but I really want to talk about that today. I really want to kind of get through the 5 steps today here to the 5th step anyway. All right, so this is the slideshow. So we did this, we did that, we did that. And speaker. Again, if you're having trouble with these and you're using the video, if you're just watching the whole video and then trying to answer the questions, it's not supposed to be a quiz. It's not supposed to be memorizing what I'm saying. So, and I do grade them kind of. If you turn in and you have 5 out of 27 right, you're going to get a 0. If you turned in late, you've got to put an honest effort into it and you get a 70. You got to do some work. I do too, and we're in this together. All right, so the hearings was where we were getting into, and most of the hearings are experts come forward, but I have to be honest with you too. A lot of times there's these professional lawyers that are hired by companies. They're called lobbyists. They got that name because back in the early days of Washington D.C., a lot of the congressmen would stay in hotels. And they would come down to the lobby, and there'd be people waiting for them to try to get them to, pass a law or something. And they talk to them in the lobby of the hotels. They became known as lobbyists. They're not all evil, but some of them are. Some of them are like lobbyists for, big oil companies trying to, get tax breaks for big companies. But sometimes they're good too. There's lobbyists that fight for things like clean air and, citizens' rights, and a lot of the if you belong to a special interest groups, they'll hire lobbyists to fight for things. So if you're a tree hugging, frog kissing, sandal wearing person, you could join this group, and they have professional lawyers that would come to these hearings and do a really good job. They're professional presenters to try to persuade the congressman to support a bill or go against a bill. So that happens. Don't forget, too, that part of Congress's job is oversight, and it's to protect the American people, and it's to hold people accountable. And that's where this next slide kind of comes in. And finding examples of hearings for you, you're not going to see the ones where there's people coming forward to get buses to stop at railroad tracks and open the door. You're not. Those kind of hearings, it's hard to find them on YouTube. If I dug through C-SPAN, I might be able to find them. It's the more spectacular ones. And one of them was when they held Mark Zuckerberg accountable. What was happening was it was becoming known that Facebook was selling information. So if I went to a certain restaurant, and whenever I went there with my friends, I would check in and I'd put something. A company could purchase that information and know that I went to that restaurant continually. And so advertising would start to come across for restaurants like that, maybe in the area, which people just didn't know about that. Not that it's, using his platform, Mark Zuckerberg's, but so let me show you. This is when he got kind of put on the spot because the word was getting out. I already went to the site, so let's see if I can find it. Awkward moment, I think it's called. Yes. Just a little bit, just to give you a taste on how they do it. So this is he's at a hearing. They brought him forward. He's under oath. There's a lot of people there because it's Mark Zuckerberg. It's the guy who invented Facebook when he was in college. And there's a lot of congressmen up in that what looks like a judge's area where they all sit, but they're asking him questions.
Would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that may be what this is all about.
Here's what everybody's been trying to do.
So what he was basically saying is that, by him selling that information, same thing with Instagram, if they're selling where you are, what kind of pictures you take, what you're interested in to advertisers or to political parties or whatever, it gets a little sticky. And especially if you don't know. This is another example. This is Katie Potter. She is she's pretty famous for being really tough on questioning. I have a couple of her holding accountable government officials. And the first one is from March 12th, right before we left school. And she's questioning one of the people from the CDC, the Center on Disease Control. And she's asking him about the fact that it costs so much money for people to get medical help. What happens if this turns into a pandemic? And she's clever. She's mean.
The coronavirus, and who doesn't?
Yes.
Not just rich people, but everybody who might have the virus?
All of America.
Dr. Redfield, are you familiar with 42 CFR 71.30, excuse me? 42 CFR 71.30. The Code of Federal Regulations that applies to the CDC. 42 CFR 71.30.
I think if you could frame what it talks about, that would help me. I don't
Okay.
relate.
Dr. Redfield, I'm pretty well known as a questioner on the Hill for not tipping my hand. I literally communicated to your office last night and received confirmation that I was going to be asking you about 42 CFR 71.30. This provides the director may authorize payment for the care and treatment of individuals subject to medical exam, quarantine, isolation, and conditional release.
That I know about, and my office did tell me that. I just didn't know the numbers, ma'am, as Congresswoman.
Great, so you're familiar. Dr. Redfield, will you commit to the CDC right now using that existing authority to pay for diagnostic testing free to every American regardless of insurance?
Well, I can say that we're going to do everything to make sure everybody can
No,
get the
not
care
good
they
enough.
need.
Reclaiming my time. Dr. Redfield, you have the existing authority. Will you commit right now to using the authority that you have vested in you under law that provides in a public health emergency for testing, treatment, exam, isolation without cost? Yes or no?
What I'm going to say is I'm going to review it in detail with
No,
the CDC
I'm
and the department.
reclaiming my time. Dr. Redfield, respectfully, I wrote you this letter along with my colleagues, Rosa DeLaura and Lauren Underwood. Congressman Underwood.
All right, so she goes on for quite a bit about that, but she gets him to commit to free testing, which is their job. Their job is to make sure that the government is doing the best they can so that, people who don't have good health insurance or don't have the money could still get tested. And she knew the law, and that's their job. She had done her homework, and she held the CDC responsible to pull an emergency power to make it so that the tests are free, which is that's what we pay them to do. That's what their job is. This is her kind of early on attacking the housing and urban development guy for being kind of against housing and urban development. A lot of the Trump cabinet are people who are kind of against the role that they're in because he ran for president on downsizing the office. I mean, Betsy DeVos, who's the Secretary of Education, is pretty anti-education, public education, and the new post office general is against the post office. And the housing and urban development guy didn't really know much about housing and urban development. And she kind of attacks him for that.
Get back to me if you don't mind to explain the disparity in REO rates. Do you know what an REO is?
An Oreo?
No, not an Oreo.
Uh,
An REO. REO.
Real estate?
What's the O stand for?
E-organization?
Owned, real estate owned. That's what happens when a property goes to foreclosure. We call it an REO. And FHA loans have much higher REOs. That is, they go to foreclosure rather than to loss mitigation or to non-foreclosure alternatives like short sales than comparable loans at the GSEs. So I'd like to know why we're having more foreclosures that end in people losing their homes with stains to their credit and disruption to their communities and their neighborhoods at FHA than we are at the GSEs.
I would be extremely happy if you'd like to have you work with the people who do that.
Well, Mr. Carson, that was my day job before I came to Congress. So now it's my job to ask you
So I'm
to work
talking
with the
about the
people.
people at HUD who do that. would
I
be
spent a
happy to
decade
put you
working with the
together
people at HUD on this problem.
So she's tough. There's no doubt about it. Notice too that she is definitely part of a subcommittee. The subcommittee has brought in him. They're trying to figure out why houses are being foreclosed on by this branch of the government and why it's involved in it. And if you look behind her, I mean, there's a lot of empty seats. That's if the full committee was together, all those seats would be together. When the full committee does get together to consider a bill, they lock the door, but they still sit in these seats, kind of with their backs to each other, I guess. So that's how it looks. That's how hearings look. I don't want to belabor the idea, but that's what these hearings look like. And good. So the next stage, after they've held these hearings, they've done all the research, then the committees recommend action. The subcommittee is going to get together and they're going to think, should we pass this thing? Should we amend it? Should we change it? Should we make it different so that it's better? Totally rewrite it, or should we kill it? And the 96% of bills get killed right here by the subcommittee because the subcommittee won't even present it to the full committee. This full committee doesn't want to hear things that aren't practical. So bills die at this stage of the subcommittee after they've done their research. A lot of them die. Kill Bill. It's an interesting movie. It's very bloody if you're into like martial arts and stuff, but it's very gory. But it was a movie it came out probably 20 years ago, and it was supposed to be one movie, but they ended up getting like all excited about it, and it was like 6 hours long, kind of like my videos. So they made it into 3 movies. So it was actually all filmed at the same time, but it's wicked gory. So don't watch it if you're like, yeah. But it's a martial arts movie, and Kill Bill. But that's what they do. The subcommittees, they either bring it forward to the full committee, or they'll ask for it to be amended or rewrote, or they'll kill it. And 96% of bills die right there. Okay. Full committee. And this is convincing. This is when the subcommittee is going to try to convince the whole committee to own this thing, because they own it. If they agree that they want this thing to go any further than committee, then they own it. They're the ones that have to sell it to the rest of the House of Representatives. They're the ones that have to go up there and schedule the debate and debate for the bill to pass. It's like, suddenly they take total ownership of the thing. It's kind of like if you rescue a baby bird or something and you nurse it back to health, you've got to take care of it. I mean, so this is where the subcommittee tries to persuade the rest of the committee to go along with it, and they may not, or they might. So the odds are, if the subcommittee comes up and says this is a good bill and it's got a lot of good reasons, then it's probably going to be supported by the committee. So the committee decides we're going to go with this. Then the chairperson of the committee will bring it to the Rules Committee, the Rules Committee is the most powerful committee in all of Congress. The Rules Committee, if you remember from that homework assignment kind of thing, it's the committee that decides when it's placed on the calendar and for how long it's going to be talked about. It is a small committee. It doesn't do any research or anything like that. It is a power committee, and the fist of it is kind of the Speaker of the House kind of controls the committee. Whoever's in the majority right now, I think they have 9 seats on the Rule Committee, and the Republicans have 4 seats on the Rule Committee, and they decide if a bill, when a bill's going to get debated and how long they're going to talk about it. If they don't like the bill, they'll put it in the back of the calendar. They'll probably never get to it during the session, so it'll be forgotten. Or they'll just schedule it to be 10 minutes, and there's no way you can persuade Congress in 10 minutes, so they can really kill a bill, even though they really technically can't. They can kill a bill. I found a website for it, the Rules Committee. I was kind of surprised that here are the people that are on it. They're generally the more experienced, powerful people in Congress that are on it. This guy's from Massachusetts. Chairman McGovern, and he's the chairman. But again, this committee is almost like it's chaired, but Nancy Pelosi kind of runs this committee. Good. All right, then it goes to, I'm looking at my little timer, and I'm trying not to kill you. All right, so the Rules Committee puts it on the calendar, decides how long it's going to be debated, and then it goes to the floor eventually. And why don't I present? And we've done this already, but the House debate on the floor is timed. It's structured. There's 435 members. They've got to be really strict. The committee presents. The committee gets behind these tables. So if the Committee on Transportation is going to present that bus, that's where they'd sit right here. People who are opposed to it would ask, and it could be Democrat or Republican who are opposed to it, by the way, but they'll ask to organize and present against it. And this is all scheduled, weeks, months in advance. I mean, if it's an emergency bill, it goes differently. But on a given day, they may say that the chairman of the Transportation Committee has 1 hour to present, and the people that are opposed to it have 1 hour, and they all sign up and they present it. We did this already. We talked about how they have the hammer come down, and we talked about the congressional record, how it's all there. And you won't see a lot of people in the floor of the House while they're debating because of the fact that they are in their committee meetings. They're doing other things. They're doing research in their subcommittees. They're in their offices doing stuff, and they can read the congressional record in the morning, or they have it on video, and if they're, they know what's going on with the different things. So it's time debate, and then a full vote with that. They turn on that light, and the people punch in their things, and if it passes by a simple majority, 435 members, I don't know what the majority is, it's a lot, it goes on to the Senate, and the whole thing starts all over again. Let me just show you. I went back and again, Office of the Clerk, I don't think I wanted that actually. I don't know why I have so many tabs open for the Office of the Clerk. I found this, and it's a debate from earlier this year.
Having endured 2 devastating hurricanes in 2017,
so they come forward.
They've had to cope with their
the chairperson gives them time,
aftermath.
And they come forward and they have the minutes.
The
and
Trump
the speaker,
administration's
who's not
failure to
necessarily the
allocate
speaker,
resources properly.
I know I'm talking about. He's
Fairly.
talking. He puts the hammer down and stops them, and they can yield more time, or they can give. If you finish up, you had 5 minutes, and the chairman gave you 5 minutes, and you go up there and you speak for 4 minutes. You can turn to the person who's running the debate, what they call the speaker, not necessarily Nancy Pelosi. I'd like to yield my 1 minute that I have left back to the chairperson. So they're really strict with the times.
Effectively, oversight in order.
Work 2, appropriating funds and quickly to help those affected.
Okay, this person's back at the table.
Committee
Here's Nancy Pelosi.
we're working right away. Is used in the
Back at the table. And they're voting. And they have 11 minutes left, probably like a half hour to vote, or an hour. It depends. Again, the Rule Committee sets how long the debate is going to go on. And if you look up here, this isn't Nancy Pelosi. She's not running this debate. She was part of the debate. She was up there talking. But she can't run all the debates. And again, these people are all, they know who's going to speak next. They know what's going on in the day. They all kind of are there to help the speaker run the debate on the floor. This lady is a stenographer. She's writing down every word that's said, and that's how they write the congressional record. Right? So that goes on, and then there's more debate. I was looking at this earlier, and I'm not going to find it, but some of you guys got the fact. It's a horrible way to stop. Some of you guys got the fact that, like, after they debate, they read the bill and then they can amend it, and they have to vote on all the amendments. So it can take a long time for a bill to get through the House floor, because they can actually change things on the House floor too. But if it passes, and it goes on to the Senate, and the whole thing kind of starts all over again. And they present. And they actually formally walk it across. It's just, they take the bill. Where's my fancy pointer? And they walk it across, and they hand it to the president of the Senate, who's the vice president of the United States. And the vice president of the United States will give it to the right committee, in the Senate. And the whole thing starts all over again, but not really. Here's a little secret. The second body that gets it doesn't have to do as much research as the first body. They have all the records. They have all the research. It's like if you had to do, I don't know. I mean, it's they have the hearings. They don't have to recall in the people that came in for the bus companies and stuff like that. They have all the notes from the hearings. They have the video from the hearings, so they don't have to redo it all. They can do as much as they want. So the Transportation Department, the committee in the Senate decides whether they want to do more research, what kind of more research they want to do. Do they want to have hearings, or they do not want to have hearings? They don't have to. But he assigns it to the right committee. We'll leave it there today, and we'll do the Senate part in the next one, and it's a little bit quicker. And I found this other thing of Game of Thrones. Hope you guys are staying safe, not driving your parents crazy, and make sure you take this stuff seriously enough, because again, it's about being exposed to the civics and the government and having an idea. You don't want to be ignorant to it. This guy's like really into it. This is how I think I would like. This is how I should have done it all year, you guys. It's a great game. All right, guys, have a good one. Stay safe. Fun to get yourself in.